What's up, guys? Future editing based Strypz here. I am decked out in my beautiful, awesome Christmas gear because it is the season and it ties into what the video is today. But before we actually get into the main video, I just want to let you guys know that it will be split up into two parts because when me and Kaz sat down and started reviewing the footage, we realized that we had talked for 3 hours. And most people won't sit there and watch a 3-hour movie unless it's like the Titanic. So in order to make it more digestible for you guys, and also to make sure that I can have content for the channel, we made the decision to split this up into 2 videos. So welcome to part 1 of our review, and look out next week and or the week after that for part 2 of this video. So without further ado, let's get right into the regular introduction, which you guys are used to seeing, and enjoy. What's up, guys? Strypz here. Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for stopping by and checking out another video. So this week I am really excited because for the last 2 videos I have been alluding to doing something different here on the channel, and the time has finally come. I am so happy, so excited, especially now that we have hit that 600 subscriber mark. So thank you guys so much. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, in the podcast I did with Ultra Pup, as well as in the last update video I said that I wanted to start doing film and TV reviews as well as analysis, and today's the day that we are going to embark on that journey. I've been really nervous about doing this because it is something completely different that I have never seen another furry YouTuber do. A lot of the furry YouTubers that I watch, at least, tend to only cover furry content, and I want to bring you guys into my world. I want to bring you guys into what I am passionate about, which is film. And I also want to introduce non-furries to the furry fandom, and vice versa, where, you know, I want to introduce furries to something new, something different, something creative, because we all have passions outside of just the furry fandom. And so I wanted to give you guys something visually interesting to look at, which is the fursuit, but also be really passionate about something. And I am ecstatic, but also a little bit nervous about making this content. So the question became, how do I start off doing movie reviews? Like, do I do a really popular movie that everybody knows? Do I do a more obscure movie that nobody knows about? And then it hit me. We are in the Christmas season. It is the holiday season, and as you guys know, I absolutely love horror movies and horror content. As you can tell by the Tales from the Crypt poster here behind me, I absolutely love it. And as I was sitting back listening to my favorite Christmas album, which is the Tales from the Crypt Christmas album, I was just like, you know what? I should cover a Christmas horror movie, but I shouldn't cover a mainstream Christmas horror movie like Gremlins, which I do want to do eventually. I should do something that nobody's ever heard about so that I can give them something new, because I always believe of shining a spotlight on little-known creators, little-known movies, little-known music, because, you know, that's how it becomes either a cult classic or gets its way into the collective consciousness. So this week I am covering a little-known film, but before I do that, since this is something brand new to the channel, we have to start it off with a bang. So this week I will be joined by a very special guest. He is one of my best friends, as well as the reason I don't have to worry about being demonetized. Wait a minute. I'm not even to the point of being monetized yet. So I don't have to worry about copyright strikes every single week. It is the creator of the music of my channel, one of my best friends, Kazmaru, aka Chibi. So yeah, Where is he? Where is that? Where's that Chip boy? Chippy? Oh, Chippy! Well, wait. Woo! There we go! The camera has now mysteriously zoomed out, and here he is, Mr. Chippy, and he is hiding behind the movie that we are going to be taking a look at today and reviewing. All the creatures were stirring. So we are really excited to tear into this film because for this first episode, I wanted to bring on somebody else who was also a film aficionado because, like, I love movies. Like I said, I've been in the production industry for 14 years. So when I, or in this case we, do these film analysis and breakdowns, they are going to be not only from a consumer standpoint, but also from a technical standpoint, like, you know, talking about the camera moves, the lighting, like the filming techniques, because that is what makes films good. It's not necessarily just the story that they tell, but it's also the techniques that are employed to tell the story. But before we do get into the review, Chippy, Kazmaru, Chippy, which one? Tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get into this.
I'm currently dressed out as Kazmaru. That's kind of my main persona, but I go by Kazmaru. That goes by my my drawing name. Chippy is my musician name, as I like to do chiptune style music. That's that old 8-bit Game Boy SNES style music, and that's my main passion, is music and art, primarily music. That's what I chose to focus more on. But Kazmaru is my art persona. And no, as he said, I'm a huge fan of action movies and primarily horror movies, and they're probably, to me, some of the movies that don't get the best limelight. And I love talking about horror movies. I think they bring some of the most special and most amazing minds out into theaters and into film.
Yeah,
the most creative.
And if you can't tell, you know, we are joined by the horror master himself, Edgar Allan Poe, this week. Right, you know, right here on my shirt. And, you know, the vest has gained a mind of its own with all the spooky ookie dookie pins. So yeah, no, we are definitely horror lovers, and a lot of people think that we are twins, especially when I'm out of suit. So it is really good to be joined by, like I said, one of my best friends. And like every week, you know, you hear his music underneath the videos. So you know, it's really cool to actually have him featured in a video that is not a live stream. That is you know, super impromptu, where I'm just like, hey, I need help, come over to my house right now because I can't see what I'm doing in person on this live stream. So this is his first official video with me, and hopefully won't be the last, because like I said, we are both huge into movies, and some of the reviews I'll be doing by myself, other reviews and analysis I will be doing along with Kaz, just because it's really cool to sit there and chop it up, and just dissect films and have somebody else to bounce off of. So if you are excited about this type of content, and you want to see more of this, before we even get into the review, make sure you hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell notification icon right next to it. The little bell that says all, not just the one that says sometimes or occasional. That way you can be notified when I do post new videos. As well as leave a comment down below of what films you want to see me or us cover here on the channel. Like I said, this is something that I've been toying about doing for a long time, and fear really stopped me from doing this. But you know what?
He's already in his horror element. He's already in fear.
But you know what? This is what I'm passionate about, and it's something different and unique that's going to set me apart on Furry YouTube. So, you know, it's also be really cool to get you guys involved as well. So please leave a comment down below, and even if you just want to say hi, hello, leave that comment. I do read every single one, and they mean the world to me. I may not be able to respond to every single one, but I do read them. And yeah, if you end up enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out and does help the channel to grow. So, yeah, all the creatures were stirring. Once we are done giving our review and analysis, we are going to give it a paw score. We're going to score it out of 10. Wait.
Hold on. No, that's...
Wait, that's not 10.
That's not 10. And do thumb paws even count?
I don't think so. So you know what? In this case, we're gonna give it a score, a paw score out of 5. There we go. Ha! I made that work. 5. So we were gonna give it a paw rating at the end. And you know what? As we review more and more films, we're gonna keep a running total of that paw rating so that you guys can know that this is a film that I or we recommend, or is it a film that you should, maybe watch, but you can live without in your life?
There's bad and there's good bad.
Yeah. I think that's a Saber Smart quote.
It is a Saber Smart quote.
So yeah, before we get into the review, let's give a little bit of background, a little bit of history on the film. And the thing is, it's actually really hard to find information on this film. Mm-hmm. We have Booth. I think I'm turning into no, I was gonna say I think I'm turning into a South Park Canadian. But we have both done extensive research into this film because one of the things about us, and especially me, is that I like DVDs. Because that way I get the director's commentary, I get all the behind the scenes stuff. Because when I watch a movie, I like to completely engross myself in that film.
Yep.
Like, I will watch the movie, then I will rewatch the movie with the director's commentary. Then once I'm done watching the director's commentary, I'll go online and look at other people's reviews of the films. Then I'll look at other people's breakdown of the films. And then I will start doing research into, well, what camera did they use? Well, who was the director? I will completely...
He full dives into it. Deep end of the pool.
Yeah. So with all the creatures we're stirring, there's not much online about this film. What is known is that it was released widely in 2018. It got its original debut at film festivals in 2017, but if you look at the copyright, it is based 2018, so technically it is a 2018 film. I was fortunate enough to find the physical disc at a discount bin at Walmart about 2 years ago when the film was released. Other than that, that's pretty much all we have to go on besides who the directors were.
Right.
So the cool thing is, this film was actually directed by a husband and wife duo, which is really, really interesting in the film industry.
Yeah.
Because it's not often that you get to work with family members, and it's even more rare that you get to work with your spouse.
Right.
So this was directed as well as written by Rebekah and David McKendry. And another really cool fact that I stumbled upon is that David McKendry is a Virginia Beach, Virginia, native. He was born here. He doesn't still live here, but he was born here. And that's where we are right now. We are in Virginia Beach. That is that's where we live. This is where we were born, bred, raised. So when I discovered that fact,
I can't say raised.
I geeked out. I absolutely geeked out because I was like, oh, I could have met this guy, and now he's over living in California. I'm I can wonder if he comes back and visits, and I want to meet this guy and sit down and pick his brain. So, after I release this review, I will probably send it to David, and he'll probably never see it, but, it's worth a shot.
Imagine telling him you want to pick his brain. He's like, in what way?
He's like, I am a fellow filmmaker, and...
oh, no, he's probably going to jump straight to horror.
Oh, yeah, definitely. and that's the other interesting thing, is that in our research, we found out that both David and Rebekah work for Blumhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Even before we get into watching this film, you have two people who work for one of the biggest studios that put out horror. So, I when I picked up this film, I did not go into it with any expectations because, like I said, I had never heard of this film. The case literally just caught my eye walking through Walmart. So, and then after seeing it, it's just like you could tell that the directors had a passion for horror films. Like you can, it's steeped all throughout this film that they have a passion for horror. And the fact that they work for Blumhouse, and I heard somewhere that one of them worked for Fangoria. So
I think it was the wife.
Yeah,
the wife worked for Fangoria.
So it is just absolutely incredible. And the other thing is, this is their debut film. Like, this is their debut film. They did both work on other independent short films before this was released, but this is their first feature-length film, and I will say I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yes.
I like. We will give the Paul rating at the end, but having watched it 6 times, 3 of those. Let's see, 2 of those without director's commentary, 2 of them with director's commentary. Actually, 3 of those were without director's commentary because I watched it twice on my own, once with Kaz, and then I've watched it 2 times on my own with the director commentary, and then 1 time I watched while it was muted because I had to pull clips to use in this review right here. So I've watched this film 6 times, and I discover something new every single time I watch it. But how did you hear and discover this film?
Oh, how did I find it? It was through you. I remember coming over one day and I was looking through your DVD collection. I was like, wow, you have a lot of horror movies in here. I was like, oh, snap, you have Trick or Treat. And you're like, you like Trick or Treat? I was like, yeah, I like Trick or Treat. He's like, then I got a movie for you. So
and we will cover I will cover Trick or Treat.
He knows that
day.
movie backhanded.
I love that movie. Eventually, I'm gonna get a Trick or Treat tattoo, but that's
But no, he let me borrow this movie, and I watched it once on my own, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And then when I watched it, we watched it again today actually, to get it fresh in our minds, and there was a lot of things that we're just double picking up on.
Yeah. So,
which is that's probably one of my favorite things in horror movies is when a horror movie has small little things in their background details that are still part of the story. I love that.
Oh yeah,
I love that. That makes you want to watch it again, and you should have a reason to watch it.
Yeah, and it, like I said, so this is actually an anthology horror film, and generally speaking, anthology films, whether horror or otherwise, do not do well in the box office. And I don't understand that because, like with anthology films, generally speaking, you have the wraparound piece as well, and then you have these smaller pieces that are directed by other directors. What's interesting about All the Creatures Are Stirring is that they directed every single segment. And as we get into the review and the analysis, I'll explain why that was actually a good thing compared to something like Rec, where in Rec, each different directors directed different segments, but because of the wraparound, it made sense.
Yeah.
In this, it makes a lot more sense for them to direct the entire thing, and like I've already mentioned, I love anthology horror. Like the Crypt Keeper watches over me when I film my videos, so I'm very well versed in anthology horror. And another thing that I will eventually cover are some really, really, really good found footage films. And again, I will give the technical analysis of why they are good found footage horror films, because again, that's another genre that people don't really like.
Yeah. Definitely should do ghostly encounters.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, definitely ghostly encounters.
Yeah. And so the thing is, when you look online at reviews, people lambaste this film. Like a lot of the reviews on this film are bad. Like, people don't like it. But Kaz and I have come to a completely different conclusion. Mm-hmm. Both of us actually really like this film. And like I said at the end, we will give the Paul rating. But before we get into it, and that's the next thing that we're going to do.
Yeah.
I will give a heavy spoiler warning. So if you do not want this film ruined for you, pause the video right here. It is available over on Shudder if you have a subscription, and you can also get it on Amazon Prime.
You should be able to find it on YouTube as well, YouTube's rent thingy.
Yes, I think you can rent it on YouTube as well, but there are a lot of avenues where you can either rent or purchase this film, and if you are like me and you like the director's commentary and all the behind-the-scenes stuff, you should be able to find physical media somewhere. You may get lucky like me and stumble upon it in a Walmart.
It is close to the season. It would not surprise me if you could find this again in a Walmart bargain bin.
Yeah, so, yeah, but since it is, like I said, the Christmas and holiday season, we are going to tear into every, and no pun intended when I say tear, but we're going to tear into every aspect of the creatures we're storing. And yeah, so now that the spoiler warning is out the way, you ready to get into it?
Yep.
Cool. So you're ready. I'm ready. Let's talk about all the creatures we're stirring. So the film starts out with our wraparound piece.
Yes.
And I think this is a better wraparound than most anthology horror films, as we were already discussing, like Wreck. Because with Wreck, the wraparound is 3 different guys discover 3 different films in one house. And
that's VHS.
Oh, okay, VHS.
Yeah,
VHS. Did I say Wreck earlier?
Yeah,
I probably said Wreck earlier. Found footage films are on my brain right now, even though we're talking about anthology. But with VHS,
movie, it's gotta be Wreck.
But yeah, with VHS, the wraparound is and. I haven't actually watched VHS yet.
It'll be on his list.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list of films to watch. But he loves VHS.
I've watched that movie as many times as he's watched this.
And so he told me about that wraparound segment, and we were comparing and contrasting how the wraparound works and why having a different director for each of those segments in VHS worked. So the wraparound in this is very simple. You have a couple out on Christmas Eve going on a date. And I think starting out, you get really likable characters.
Yeah.
It's this very awkward interaction out in front of the theater. And they enter the theater, and it's this really kind of I don't want to say it's dingy.
It's not dingy. It's that corner of the city kind of theater.
Very avant-garde.
Yes.
Very avant-garde.
And so it's like it's like when you look at a shop from a distance and you can't tell what it is until you go in. So if you looked at this place on the outside, you wouldn't be able to tell that this is theater.
Well, besides the giant marquee that technically has the name of the movie across it, because and a lot of people and one of the reviews that I watched, because like I said, I delve deep into these movies, and one of the reviews, people was like, I don't understand why it's called All the Creatures Are Stirring. You don't see creatures, and I'm just like, this is not Gremlins. Yeah. Like, granted, I love Gremlins, and eventually I will cover Gremlins here in one of the reviews, because that is one of my favorite movies. Like, y'all have seen Gizmo. He's made several appearances here on the channel. But there, like, a lot of people are complaining that the title didn't live up to what you actually saw, and I'm just like, that's
perfectly did.
I think it did too.
I think it perfectly did.
And the thing is, that's the name of the play that they're seeing. The name of the play that they're seeing is All the Creatures Were Stirring.
Yeah.
And so that they go to this avant-garde black box theater, and I really appreciate the fact that they used a black box theater, because when I was in high school, I was a trained thespian. Woo! And I would say, like, just below demi-professional level, because I went to a specialized high school for theater. It was a arts high school, so we had vocalists, we had theater majors, we had visual artists, we had dancers.
I went to a technological school. But I was in choir, though. I was in choir my entire 4 years there. I made madrigals.
Oh, sweet! Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. But I was a vocal and theater student, so my first year, we did The Crucible. We eventually did Hairspray, How to Succeed in Business, The Importance of Being Earnest, The Laramie Project. But then and those were all the main stage productions. But we also had a black box theater in our high school. And this made me reminisce so much, because this is literally what a black box theater is like. It is nothing but black apple boxes, a black wall on a black riser stage. It is so minimalist.
Yes.
And a lot of times you're using very limited props, and the prop master may bring a couple of few things, but the rest of it, the audience and you have to use your imagination to make it come to fruition. So I think that setting the wraparound segment in this black box theater is absolutely genius, because it gives a reason why we are seeing each of the vignettes that we are seeing. Because, and a lot of time in anthology films, there is no reason for the audience to be experiencing what the characters are experiencing. But the way this wraparound works is, okay, they got their tickets, they go sit down, and then the play starts. And so each of the vignettes that we see are essentially... It's
like a 4K resolution of the black box theatrical you're watching.
Right. And so...
even better, though, before they even get to the black box, the place is already kind of disturbing.
Oh, very much so.
It's very tiny. It's very claustrophobic. And the girl who's with the guy is being constantly stared at by this old man when she first walks in. And when the guy's constantly going off on his phone, he's like, hold on, I got to take this call real quick.
And the guy that we're referring to is not the creepy guy. This is the main character that we're supposed to be following.
Yeah, so she's left by herself, and every time she looks, there's this old man just sitting there staring at her. And the first scene you get with him, it's him just staring at her, flipping the pages to the book.
Not looking at the book. No, not looking at the book. No. Because that's how we read books now. We read books without looking at
Without looking, staring at her, dead in her eyes, right through her soul. And she's like, okay.
Yeah. And so, so now at this point, we've already been introduced to our wraparound characters. But that's when we get into the first main vignette, the first main story, which is called The Stockings Were Hung. Now, I've seen online, and before I get into The Stockings Were Hung, I just want to talk about the director, because in each of these wraparound segments, the director comes out, will move the black card and show what the title of the small play is that you're about to see. Now this is just... Well, the thing is, the director looked like Riff Raff.
Yeah.
The director looked like a female Riff Raff from Rocky Horror. And
held high and everything.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I know that's not what they were going for. In the director's commentary, they specifically point out the style and who they were going for. But all I can think in my mind is, that's Riff Raff. And one of the things, like I said, we did rewatch the movie earlier today. And we did record some of our reactions to the film. And it was so funny. He thought that the main character looked like Daphne.
She does.
That's 100... The purple... Daphne!
She does look like Daphne. And that's Golf Velma before they became friends.
Yeah.
Because it was so funny.
She had the hair, and I'm talking the live action Scooby-Doo Daphne. Straight hair, purple dress, red lipstick. I was like, all I see is Daphne.
Yeah.
And it made, you know what even put that more onto it too? She felt like the damsel in distress. The moment the old man started staring at her, I was like, God, that is just
I was like,
Daphne.
Fred, come save her.
That's Daphne.
So we're now in the theater, and they're now about to watch this first play, and the actors on stage are already very awkward. There's something about them that isn't your typical black box actor. They're not, because typically in black box theater, you have to overact in order to make everything flow and work. But with this, the actors on stage are so reserved.
They're deadpan.
They're deadpan. They speak monotone. It is so unsettling. But what makes it even more unsettling is that, once they start the action on stage, the camera zooms in, and then you are transported, like Kaz said, into the 4K version, quote unquote, of this stage play. And like, I'm just thinking that the characters that we are following are watching these 3 deadpan actors do this while we get to watch the actors who actually have emotion.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
But actually getting into the stockings were hung. Wow. It's good.
That was a good one.
It's good, and it's interesting because every review that I've seen always compares it to Saw.
I don't know why Saw, though.
Well, I don't know why Saw either, because when we were talking about it earlier, we came to the conclusion that it's more like the Belko experiment.
Yes.
Because it takes place in an office, and everybody who ends up being at each other's throats. And like I said, we're going to go from the story from beginning to end, break it down on a technical level as well as an audience perspective.
Yeah.
But it's since it takes place in an office and everybody who ends up at each other's throats knows each other, it is much more Belko-esque than Saw-esque. Like, I can see a kind of loosely where Saw could come into play.
I think the only Saw-esque thing was just the voice over the phone, but you can't even claim that because the Belko experiment did the same thing.
Right. But and I think the only Saw argument that could be made is like maybe Saw 5. It was either Saw 5 or Saw 6.
Honestly, I stopped at about 4 because once James Wan stopped directing them, they weren't good.
Yeah, no, I can give you that. I'm a huge Saw fan. I've watched all of them all the way up to Jigsaw. I'm really interested to see what they do with the Book of Saw, the one where Chris Rock is gonna be the main character. I'm a huge Saw fan. Eventually, we will cover those on this show, but like Saw 5, the one where all the people at the insurance office are put into the trap together. But like that's the only one that I could see the Saw correlation. But like it really was more Belko than anything.
You haven't seen the Belko experiment?
Check it out. Highly recommend it. We will definitely cover that on this show because the Belko experiment is another highly underrated film. And like I said, I want to shine spotlights on little known films or films that I feel have been unfairly reviewed into the ground.
Yeah.
That have gotten bad reviews for what I feel like is no good reason. So, the premise of All the Stockings Were Hung is a white elephant gift exchange. And I like that premise right. And I like that premise only because we've all been there, whether it is in an office environment, a high school, an elementary school, a middle school, like whatever the case is, we've all been in one of those awkward white elephant gift exchanges, and they're always terrible. Like they always suck. You always end up getting just like the worst thing, and then like your friend or like your worst enemy ends up getting the best thing, and you're just like,
the best thing I've ever gotten from a white elephant was a Mario Kart Monopolies.
When we were talking about this earlier, you said it was a ruby dragon or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was that one, or it was a sapphire dragon.
That's what it was. So
that was my most recent one. Was the Mario Kart one?
Gotcha. But yeah, so using the white elephant gifts exchange in an office setting is already a good thing because that is something that most offices do every Christmas, and they are always awkward, always terrible, and so you meet the first couple of characters, and one of the things that you notice on repeat viewings, and most people may catch it in the first one, maybe, is that the Asian guy, and I'm not being racist, like literally he's like the Asian guy who works in the office, runs off and actually does not go to the gift exchange, but he shows back up later in a big way. Yeah. So and what's interesting is that all this gift exchange takes place in one room, and that is something that you see throughout all 5 vignettes.
Yes.
And actually, the entire film.
The entire film is just in small claustrophobic. Well, not the second one. The second one doesn't. But
second one's not necessarily claustrophobic, but because each film is its own independent small thing. It's like, this was definitely a low budget film. But it's, in my opinion, it is hard to tell that it's a low budget film, except for like maybe some of the audio guffaws that were here and there. But other than that, it feels like a big budget film. And so once you get into this single room, and actually even before you get into this room,
they're talking in cubicles, very tight knit cubicles.
Well, yeah, you're in a cubicle, and then you end up in this boardroom. Yeah, and the funny thing is, the actual filming location was the Blumhouse boardroom, or one of the Blumhouse like meeting rooms. But of course, you'd only know that if you have the director's commentary, and that's why I love the director's commentary, because you find out some cool stuff. But one of the things that is interesting about this one is the editing, because it is a very unusual editing style. They primarily have picture-in-picture editing, which is something that you don't see in normal, quote-unquote, traditional films. Like, most directors and editors stay away from picture-in-picture because it's seen as, like, lesser than, or it's, like, seen as cheesy. But in this, it works.
And it works very well because it's a play, honestly, off of The Office. So if you don't know what picture-in-picture is, it's like when you watch The Office and you have a screen here of people chatting, but even though the person's right across the room, instead of having a full camera view of the room, you get a close-up of the person here, but then you get the small little window of like a person between here. And then that's what they did with this, because since they're all in the small room, they could have taken the liberties to have the full room, but that would take away from the idea that this is a small room. Yeah, doing that picture-in-picture, it makes it feel even more claustrophobic than what it should already have.
No, I totally agree. And so, you start this gift exchange, and the first thing that gets opened up is what you think is a bottle of wine, but ends up being a bottle of balsamic vinegar. And so it's like, they're laying the groundwork that, oh my gosh, this is about to be a slog. How in the heck can they turn this into a horror movie? Like, she just got a bottle of balsamic vinegar. Like, what? Which, interesting enough, like, is a really heartfelt gift, because balsamic vinegar takes like 6 months to make. So
and the lady in there, she's like, "Oh, I made it myself." I was like, oh.
like this woman, like shout out, like massive shout out to Diane Sellers. Like, that woman, oh my goodness, she is a phenomenal actress. Like, I don't know where they found this woman, because, like, granted, like, in almost every small film, they do have some form of A-list actor, either from movies or TV shows. They have A-list actors. Like, oh, that woman did phenomenal in that role.
She's your grandma.
Yes, very much so.
She's your grandma.
Very much so. But she not only plays grandma well, but she plays horror well. Yeah. And horror is notoriously hard to act in. Yes. Like pulling those emotions out of nowhere, but also, being able to be a scream queen is difficult. It is extremely difficult. And she did, for me, she was the standout actress, at least in this short. And that's why I'm mentioning her by name. Like, I don't know the names of all the other actors and actresses. Like, I can put up a list, but Diane. Yeah. Oh, phenomenal. So, now that we sang the praises of Diane, and like, let's actually get into what makes this a horror short. Yeah. And that is, some of the gifts on the table are booby-trapped. And at this point, as an audience member, you don't know this until, the guy, they're going around the table, the next guy picks up his gift, and he's sitting there fidgeting with it, and next you know, shotgun blast right to the face.
I still jumped at that moment. Just, oh.
It's awful.
Yeah, no, it's one of those jump scares that doesn't feel like a traditional jump scare, because
sudden. It's a perfectly good jump scare, because it's the least because it's the second guy that it happens to. You, like you said, you get that slow burn with the balsamic vinegar, so you're sitting here like, well, this is about to trudge on, and the fact that the next guy opens, it's just boom, loud gunshot. You're like,
well, and the thing is, it's not like it's like the gunshot is the loud sound, because one of the things that I hate about jump scares where they do the whatever the violin
string quartet,
like whatever the loud sound is, like, and then it's like, oh, jump scare time. But like with this, because of how it's set up, even if you have the audio off, it is still jarring. It catches you completely off guard. And the beautiful thing, and this is something I've noticed throughout all the vignettes, which we'll get to, is that everything used practical effects.
Yes.
And I applaud them so much for practical effects because, one, they look so much better on camera, a lot better than CGI. And secondly, you know, practical effects is something that is unfortunately a dying breed.
Yeah.
Like being able to sculpt the clay and then pour that into a liquid latex mold or a foam rubber mold and then paint that and then, you know, make your blood actually look good. Looking at you, I'm looking at you, Saw 3D. I will never forgive you for the Pepto-Bismol blood. I will never forgive you for that. Anyway, but their blood looks good. Like it is.
Yeah.
It is a little bit thin at times, but like they get the color and they pretty much get the consistency right.
Yeah.
And I applaud them for that. So. That's your first out of the gate kill, and it is jarring. And the next thing you know, the phone rings because like somebody and this bothered me a little bit. Instead of them being like, "Oh my gosh, we should call 911," the guy's like, "Try the office line." No, what? No. You better
watch
believe
the guy get shot. Why do you want the office line?
I'm calling the cops.
I'm pretty sure the office line is like 5 digits. 911's 3. I work in retail. I know to dial somebody. It's like 4581 911. Oh God, that's so much harder.
So anyway, oh gosh, oh. See, this is exactly why I want to do this with you. You're freaking hilarious. So the office phone rings, and this like creepy guy who kind of sounds like a mixture of Mark Hamill's Joker, along with like Pennywise on speed, like. Like he's calling. He's like, you know what? All the gifts on there are a bunch of gifts on the table. You guys have to continue opening gifts. Some of the gifts may hurt you. Other of the gifts may help you. Click.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm filling the building with poison gas. Excuse me?
Shuts off all the lights in the building. The only light that works is the office room.
So, and what's interesting, and so this is where we're going to started getting into the technical aspect. Yeah. The practical lighting in that scene is beautiful, and they give a reasoning for the lighting. So the light shut off, and the only thing that's working is this conference room. The conference room, its overhead lights, the fluorescent lights still work. But outside, the only lights that are on are the white emergency lights and the green exit sign lights.
Yeah.
And that choice of practical lighting was beautiful. Because like they showed earlier in the scene when the Asian guy runs off the green exit signs. And a lot of people would probably miss that.
Yeah.
I noticed it. And granted, it may not have been achieved practically on set. They probably did use some type of light with gels over it to really intensify the green. Yeah. But you have a reason why. Well, why is there green light in the hallway? Is it because of the poison? No. It's because of the exit sign. And so they gave a reasoning for that color choice out in the hallway, and it looked really, really beautiful against the fog that they use. And then on top of that, they somehow managed to make fluorescent lights in that boardroom look good. Yeah. And fluorescent lighting is so hard to film. And like I said, I've been doing production in some capacity for 14 years. Like whether it's been a sound designer, a DJ, photographer, videographer, video editor.
Light engineer.
Yes, like a gaffer. Yeah. Technical term for light engineer, gaffer. Yeah. I've been doing that for 14 years, and fluorescent lighting is just... It's so hard to get it to look good, and somehow they managed to do it. And so I thoroughly applaud them. Yes, there were a couple of shots where like something was overexposed, but it was never the character in the foreground. It was always the character in the background who was overexposed. So I was like, I'll give you leeway there. Like I said, I've watched 3, 4, 5 reviews of this film, and everybody lambasted it. And one of the reviews was just like, yeah, a lot of the shots in that were overexposed.
No,
like,
no,
I'm sorry, what? Maybe your TV settings were wrong, but like, I didn't see an overexposed shot. What are you talking about? So anyway, so from a technical aspect, their Steadicam operator was also a freaking beast, because like when you get the establishing shot of the room, this room is not big. So running a Steadicam rig in that room, like, hats off to you, sir. Like, hats off to you. So getting back into what actually happens now that we've praised some of the technical aspect, so the game continues. Yeah. The game continues, and they start unboxing more presents. So, we've already had balsamic vinegar lady. We've already had shotgun to the face blast.
By the way, oh god, what do you call him? The office manager?
Oh yeah. We forgot. Yeah, the office manager. So at this point, the Asian guy is not in the room with us. And neither is the office manager, because the office manager ended up getting a phone call and passed off responsibility to somebody else. So at this point, they're playing the game, and the next person opens up a box and it has a gun in it, but it's not loaded. So the other guy's just like, you know what? I'm going to smash the glass with the butt of the gun. And they're just like, dude, stop. What are you doing? There is like poison gas out in the hallway.
Of course, he probably doesn't believe him until you look in the chair and there's the Asian guy sitting there. He's like,
foaming at the mouth.
He's like, please help me. And you just see him start convulsing, and you're like, it's good enough for me not to smash that.
Exactly. And then you go over to the next door, because like there's 2 doors to get into this conference room. You look through the glass of the other one.
There's their
office manager
neck slit.
Like, bye, thank you. No.
Yep.
So at this point it's just like, well, we should probably play the game.
Yeah.
Like,
they're kind of stuck.
Game. And so it starts progressing, and as the guy said, some of the things will help you, others of the things will hurt you. And one of the things that you think would be super innocuous is a card.
Yeah.
But you know what was contained in that card? Photos, and it had one of those little audio things, like when you open up the card,
where you can like record your voice and let people know.
Yep. And what ends up playing is a recording of a couple of people getting hot and heavy in the storage closet, along with photos of that happening. And it just so happens that one of the guys in the room had a crush on this girl, and the first guy who got a shotgun to the face was the guy that she was fooling around with.
Yeah.
So from there, that's when everything starts spiraling out of control.
Yep.
Because before she opens the card, the guy who was, the love interest, or I guess technically in this case, he kind of be the unknown third wheel.
Yeah.
Because he's never really expressed his feelings to this chick.
Yeah, he's kind of the nervous one of the office. Right. He just like stays in the cubicle.
Right. So, but at this point, he's already found a knife. Yeah. He's found a knife in one of these boxes.
He opens his package and it was a knife.
Right. And so after hearing all of this, one of the guys, the black guy, the only black guy in this office, starts beating him up. He's like, you know what? You're probably working with the guy who set all this up because you're jealous of him, and he's the only guy who's dead.
Right.
So you set this up. And at this point, you're just like, one, hold up, bro.
Why would he lock himself in here?
One,
yeah,
and two, it's just like, well, now you can start seeing everybody start getting at each other's throats. And like, at this point, stuff is about to get real. Nasty.
It's about to get so real.
Oh, yeah. But what happens next completely... It subverts your expectations, because we get our second throat slash of the movie, because the guy offs himself. It's so unexpected, because it's like, he picks up the knife and you think he's about to just stab the black guy, and instead he's just like, no! And I was like, buddy, that was
take that route.
That was not the route that we were expecting you to take. Oh, Jesus. But then at this point, stuff is already going off the rails. Then the phone rings again, and it's the same creepy guy. And he's making fun of these people.
Yeah.
So obviously, this guy's looking into the room. He can see what's going on. And he's like, keep playing the game.
Yeah.
And of course, they do.
The next one up was
it was sadly our grandma.
Yeah, it was grandma.
Sadly grandma. So at this point, they've already told everybody, open the gifts over there.
In that corner.
In case it's a bomb, open them over there. Like, nah, you're not taking us all out. Like, open them over there. And sadly, our wonderful Diane, either that's not her character name,
her
but
name was Suzanne, actually.
Susanna.
Susanna or Susan.
Susan, something like that. But she opens up her gift, and her gift ends up being bullets for the gun. But as soon as she opens up those bullets,
the vent pops open and poison gas starts seeping in.
And I think this is the only thing that we felt like may take away plausible deniability. But I was like, we found a way that, okay, this is still plausible, because she got it face first, like no covering of the mouth, like no covering at all. Where whenever people try to run over and help her, because people were still being genuinely good at this point.
Yeah.
When they run over to help her, they are all covering their mouth and nose with like their arms and their faces and their clothing. So we give that
a little pass of a leeway.
Just a little bit of leeway, just a little bit of plausible, just a hair of plausible deniability there. But if you overlook that, we're still very solid on the story so far. So everything is plausible. Everything makes sense. But then, at this point, hell is already broken loose.
Yeah.
Time to let the demons out, literally, because the next guy is the black guy, and he, opens up his present.
Yeah.
And
it was a reporting of one of the guys in the office from where they are now, and the boss talking about how they were going to fire him.
Yep.
And the funny part was the guy didn't even make a defense for himself. He's like, "Hey man, sales are sales, and you're behind."
Yeah, pretty much. And at that point, it's just like, oh nah. That's the worst thing you could, like, my dude.
They had already accepted it at this point. And he's like, well, the room is filling with gas. Fuck it.
Yeah, pretty much it's like every man and woman for themselves at this point. And so the room after that just erupts into chaos. But in the midst of that chaos, the only person who has not opened their gift yet opens a gift.
Actually, funny enough, she did open a gift. She's the one who got the, so at the end, one of the girls opens a gift and she's like, I just opened it. And it was a gas mask. So everybody jumps her to get the gift. But the funny part is she was the first one to open the gift. She's the one who got the balsamic vinegar.
She was the one to get the balsamic vinegar.
By technicality, the game's over.
Interesting. Well, no, because the chick in the red dress
opened the card.
Yes, she did. Interesting.
So that would also explain why at the end the janitor was standing out front in front of the thing watching the chaos ensue, because he probably already knew that the game was over. He watched everybody take their rounds. And he was probably there to let them out and was probably going to play it off, but once he saw them go into chaos, he's like, works better for me.
Well, but I also think that the janitor is the one who set all this up in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So the janitor sets it all up because he's outside in the gas where the Asian and the boss died, but he has a gas mask of his own, so he already knew. That's already a dead giveaway.
And the other thing that's interesting is I think the reasoning behind why this happened, because it shows that everybody, like, through the course of this film, you see that everybody is a complete butthole, probably besides Suzanne.
Yeah.
Like, everybody else in that office is a complete butthole. and one of the things that is accentuated is at the beginning of this vignette, the office manager walks up to the janitor, hands him a mug, and he's like, can you try to make sure you get it clean this time?
Right.
And that's probably the straw that broke this dude's back. I'm like, it's Christmas.
He probably already had it planned. Something broke the straw months ago.
Something broke the straw months ago, but I don't think he would have executed the plan.
No.
If that boss hadn't given that last little jab, but like that little poke.
No, I'm saying like the plan was already in execution because he had to have all the presents already in there. Remember, all the presents were already pre-set up. all the presents were every single present was already in that room.
Right,
he
but
had that set.
But there was enough time, and again, with it being a short film, of course, we're working with time dilation, so you never know the exact time frame. But I feel like there was enough time between them realizing, oh, we have this office Christmas party, and the actual start of the Christmas party for him to have snuck everything in there and get it set up. And I feel like because there was something that broke the camel's back, that's why he continued to let this be in motion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There would have been enough time to like take the presents out and like not let it go through. But I think like that last little prod from the boss on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve is like, nah, all y'all dying. Besides all y'all dying.
Yeah, one person did make it away, and it was honestly the least expected person.
Yes,
it was honestly. You would think, because a lot of the camera focus was on a very specific chick throughout most of the film, and she seemed like the most level-headed, because she was the one who suggested everybody open your gift over in the corner.
And she was also the one who ended up with the gas mask in the end, but she was not the one who ended up walking away.
The meekest one was the one to live.
Yep. And
honestly, honestly, to beat that, they also should have known which gifts were theirs.
Very true. Very true.
Because the Suzanne knew that the bottle was
She knew the balsamic vinegar was hers. And what ends up being I wouldn't necessarily call it a Deus Ex Machina.
Right.
But at the beginning of the film, the guy forgets there's a white elephant thing, and he literally fills like this metal ball with
tacks, like the office supplies.
The office supplies. He literally just fills a ball with office supplies,
wraps it up in paper, and tapes it.
And that's what this chick ends up picking up. And I guess she ends up like beating everybody to death, probably with this ball.
They probably opened up the rest and picked up more weapons,
possibly. But
we don't know what happens.
But here's the thing: at the end, you see her walking out of the room, as well as walking out of this office building with the gas mask on her face, and she's still holding this metal ball. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that, but
it was a Christmas ornament.
No, she wasn't holding the ornament. She was holding the ball of office supplies. And so I'm just like it wasn't a Deus Ex Machina, but it kind of was a Deus. I don't know.
Right.
But either which way, the short film ends on a
pretty ambiguous note, because you don't know what happens after that.
Right. You don't know what happens, and at this point, the camera at this point,
doesn't pan, but it stays on her as she walks away.
Right, and then it fades to black, and then as the fade to black goes away, you're now back into the theater watching, and it's so funny. You got one of the actors holding a smoke machine,
one of them sitting straight dead on the ground,
and the other chick taking the mask off her face. And that's the point that you realize that what we just watched was what the characters
had to act out.
Right, what they had to act out, but also what the characters in the audience just watched. And it's just like, that was trippy. And I feel like it'd be even trippier watching it in a black box setting, because because of how minimalistic it is.
Yeah.
So at this point, we finished with vignette 1. We finished with film number 1.
Yeah.
And the director comes back out. Female riffraff comes back out, and and she pulls up the title card, and we get into number 2, which is Dash Away All. Now, most people say that Dash Away All is their absolute favorite vignette out of this film. And
I know why.
I understand why as well.
There's another reason for it too, and it's kind of a reason that makes me very upset.
What is that?
We'll go through the story first.
Okay, so we'll get into the story. So you start out with the actors on stage acting out what's going on, and there are people clearly, even though it's very black box theater, they're checking out from convenience store. They're checking out from like some big box store,
Christmas tree shop. If you don't know what that is, it's a giant retail store that sells a bunch of It's a Forever Christmas store.
Yeah, but I don't think this was a Forever Christmas store. But either which way, this guy's doing his last minute Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve, mind you. Like this is Christmas Eve, and this dude is closing out the store, and that's when you pan into the 4K version, as we're calling it, of the guy coming out of the store, and he's arms are loaded down with gifts, and
head on the
phone, and he's the only car in the parking lot, and
the only car in the entire parking lot.
And again, this is one of those plausible deniability things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
In the day and age that we live in, there'd have been at least one other person, probably a Karen, out in that parking lot with him. But of course, she would have gotten in her car.
The only other people, honestly, would have been in the parking lot would have been the employees.
Well, but the thing is,
unless they have a back parking lot.
And that's what I was about to say. Yeah. The employees probably parked around the back.
Yeah.
And this dude clearly closed out this store. Closed it out. Gets to his car.
Starts putting everything in. He's getting ready to leave.
But the
door doesn't work.
The thing is, the filmmakers, the directors, are very deliberate in showing that his car has problems with the lock and unlock mechanism.
Yeah.
Like, they make it very evident, and that becomes the linchpin of this entire short story. So, he puts the gifts in the back seat.
Yeah.
He goes to get in the front seat. He puts the gifts in the back seat, gets in the front seat, realizes that the back door is still ajar, gets out, gets locked out of his car.
All while his wife is texting him that grandma is judging the turkey.
It wasn't grandma. It was his mother-in-law.
Yeah, his mother-in-law. His mother-in-law.
She's her mother-in-law. She's judging the turkey. She's judging the turkey. Which is hilarious. Like, we've all been there. We've all had those in-laws that we dread coming in because all they're going to do is just say judgmental stuff the entire time.
It's every year. Like, you deal with them because you do still like them.
Because they're just family.
Something about it. They're going to judge something like, oh, here we go.
And so this guy looks up and realizes, well, actually, I'm not the only car in the parking lot. There's a van.
Mistake number one. Okay, let me talk about something, right? First of all, the parking lot, I understand it's empty, but across the street, there's a street there with cars driving. You can get help from one of them. Across that street is an entire neighborhood. There's a whole neighborhood of people. He could have gone over there, knocked on somebody's door. Hey, I'm locked out of my car. Do you have a cell phone I can use? You don't even have to let me into your house. I just need a call for roadside assistance.
Think about it. This is Christmas Eve. Most people are probably sitting out with their families and, doing Christmas dinner, this, that, and the third. And the other thing is, most people are going to take the path of least resistance, which is going to be to go to the creepy van.
I'm not going to a creepy van at 12 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night.
It's like, think about it. It's California, daylight savings time. Like here, like we've already talked about, we're in Virginia Beach. And like in Virginia Beach, it gets dark at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
and it's dark. So I'm thinking like, okay, over in California, it probably does the same thing. So it's probably only like 5 o'clock because it's like, they haven't quite eaten Christmas dinner yet or Christmas Eve dinner yet because she's judging the turkey.
Yeah.
So like, it's not that late. So granted, it's pitch black, but like I don't know if I'm
still not going to a creepy van in the middle of a parking lot. There's a perfectly good full set neighborhood. If someone's trying to kill me in a neighborhood, they got neighbors. I can call on the neighbors. This man's trying to kill me. If the rest of you are going to kill me, just kill me at this point. Well, that's my mistake.
Well, fun fact about the van though, it is actually the van from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool homage. But this dude goes over to the van and he asks if, can I borrow your cell phone? I got locked out of my car.
So sure enough, there are two ladies in the van, and they just kind of look him over, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing to highlight, we're getting back into the technical stuff, because this is an analysis as well as a review. Beautiful camera work. Mm-hmm. And this is something that you see come up multiple times throughout each short film, is the use of mirrors. And I hope this becomes a staple of this husband and wife duo, because It's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's also really, really hard to get right. But this is our first instance of it, and that is his face reflected in the glass of the van.
Yeah.
Because, again, very deliberate decision to make sure that we never get an inside look of the van, both from a camera angle perspective, but also from a
character POV style
exactly.
Perspective.
From both a character POV as well as a other character from being inside the van. We never get that inside the van perspective looking out or looking into the van until they absolutely want us to, and it is beautiful. And the fact that they were able to pull off this reflection shot in the glass of the van, beautifully done. And I like anybody who does not understand how mind-boggling that is, try to film yourself in like your bathroom mirror and not get the camera in it, but also make sure that you have a good angle of your face. Like, granted, now that we like have Instagram and TikTok and all that, people are getting more and more adept at doing that.
Yeah.
But it is a skill to get it to look good and not have the camera in the shot. Yeah. So I applaud them for that, especially since they were filming on like Red Epics and Red Scarlets. They were filming on some pretty big cameras, and they probably rented them, which kept the cost down, because as we mentioned before, this is definitely a low budget film, but it never feels.
No, it doesn't.
It never feels like a low budget film, even in each vignette. So now that I've gushed about the technical aspect, and again, another great use of practical lighting, because even though they probably did have some type of softbox on set or some type of reflector on set to really fill in the shadows, they were still able to get it to look like the overhead lighting that you would get in a parking lot with the lamps in the parking lot, which beautifully done. Again, not necessarily a hard effect to pull off, but definitely a challenging aspect to get that tungsten lighting to look good, because again, that's another type of lighting that is hard to look good.
Yeah.
Like, it's so orange. But again, they managed to make it look beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about this film, is that because you had the same director at the helm of every short, and as well as in the wraparound segment, their style came through, but each story felt like its own independent thing because of the editing.
Yeah.
Even if you could tell it was the same director helming it, which again makes sense because of the wraparound segment. Like, there is a in-universe reason that you had the same director throughout. And that's because, they're sitting down and watching a play. And in black box theater, yes, generally you would have different directors for each play, but if you're using the same actors, generally it's going to be the same director for each small, one-act play. And that's what these are. These are essentially small one-act plays that are playing out on stage that we, as the audience, are getting to see in the 4K version, as we keep describing. So
it's 4K.
Wait, no, there we go. 4K. So this vignette works so well, and that's when as Kaz was saying, they let him use the phone.
Yeah,
and then becomes the second linchpin of this entire short, and that is something that is so innocuous that you'd probably miss the first time around. And what is that?
It's his birthday.
Yes, it is his birthday. Well, almost his birthday.
Almost, yeah.
Because he is born on a Christmas Day, like so many lucky people in the U.S., born on Christmas Day, and it is Christmas Eve, and he tells the tow truck driver, hey, you know what, I really don't want to be stuck here on my birthday, so, can you get here before midnight? Like, also, it's cold out here. Like my guy, can you help me out? And you would think that it would be shorter than a 30-minute wait, because it is Christmas Eve. So, like, how many people need a tow on Christmas Eve?
Probably a lot when you think about it, if they're rushing or whatnot. There'd be a lot of
I can give you that.
Car accidents, people rushing, trying to get home for their Christmas dinners and whatnot.
Very true. But then the second thing he does is he calls his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I think, is a very interesting character motivation because I tried to put myself in this guy's shoes. At this point, your in-laws are already over. You don't want to send the father because he doesn't know the city.
Right.
But, like, do you really want to leave your in-laws at the house by themselves so that you can come and bring me a spare set of keys? And so, like, the more I thought about it, I was like, well, what would I have my wife do in that situation? Like,
because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, well, the in-laws would have had to. Let's assume that they drove there because he said he didn't want his what was his uncle?
His dad. He didn't want his dad.
He didn't want his dad leaving the house and getting lost again, apparently.
Because we won't see him till next year.
Yeah. So apparently they had to have gotten down there on their own in some sort of compassion.
But they probably have the address and probably put it in the GPS to just get from the or the wife went and picked them up at the airport and drove them either which way. Well, either which way. It would
still require that that wouldn't make any sense because it would still require that the dad would have had to gotten there some sort of way. So the only other thing that I could really think of is that if he had asked her to drive, she probably wouldn't be able to drive his car because this is 2018, and if we can assume their age, he'd probably drive stick. He probably could drive the dad. The dad could probably drive stick, and the wife can't drive stick. So that's why he's probably calling her like, "Look, you probably can't get here because this is our only car."
Well, they never make it expressly clear that that's the only car. I know they don't,
but that would be the only plausible thing I can think of.
Well, the thing is, but also think about it, and I think about it more this way: is I don't want to leave my in-laws in my house to their own devices. Just so that you can come save me from accidentally locking my keys in the car. And, like, I respect that dude for that because, like, again, I don't want my in-laws in my house without some type of supervision. Like, nah.
With the kids. With the kids while cooking.
Thank you. Nope.
While mother-in-law is judging the turkey.
Wifey, you stay at home. You satiate the craziness. AAA is on its way. Like, nah. So, like, I understand where this dude is coming from 120%. Like, sir, I feel you. I'm sorry that you're trapped in the parking lot. I've been there. We all been there. I'm sorry.
I haven't been there. I'm kidding.
I have come to your job to help bail your car out of the parking lot before. Granted, it wasn't on Christmas Eve.
And I didn't lock my keys. It was just a failed engine.
Anyway, back to
my keys worked.
back to this short film. So yeah, at this point, he's called somebody, and the girls are just like, cool. And you see them start to leave, and they pull around. You think they're about to pull out of the parking lot, and nope,
they come back around.
They come back around. But what's interesting is they park like 2 parking spaces away from this dude's car. And at first you're like, well, why didn't they just pull up next to his car? But all will be explained. But they throw him a scarf and they're just like, my dude, you shouldn't have to be cold on Christmas. You shouldn't freeze to death on Christmas. We're good people. Like, we're gonna help you out.
Yeah.
And then the guy's just like, well, what are your plans? And there's like, they hop out the van. And what's interesting, something I noticed, and again, this was the director's vision. Instead of the girl who was driving getting out of the driver's side of the door,
she climbs through.
She climbs through and gets out of the back door,
the sliding door,
and leaves it slightly ajar. She purposely left it slightly ajar, and so they're sitting out there, and she's like, what are their plans? They're sitting there drinking something out of a flask. I like to believe it's vodka. And like when we were watching it, I was joking that it's like some type of Everclear.
See, but the good part is it's alcohol. The germs are neutralized. It's vodka. It's like Everclear.
The germs inside are the lip piecing.
It's Everclear vodka. Like it's been.
That would completely neutralize the bacteria, and that's why they're passing it all around. And Cass is just like,
I don't share drinks. I don't care what it is. I don't share drinks. That's gross. You can share food because you can kind of cut around where somebody's bit and whatnot, but that's still kind of iffy. I do not share drinks.
Yeah, but they're out there drinking, and that's when he realizes, hey, you left the door to your van open.
And they're like, oh, it's just an old piece of junk. And he's like, no, don't worry. You help me, so I'll help you. I'll help you try to close it.
And this is after he somewhat insults them. Because he's like, can I give you guys some money? Because, like, you know, it's the least I can do because you know, you help me, let me use your phone. And they give him this look like, my dude.
Yeah, like, they give him
my
a
guy.
Like, you think we're broke? You think we're hobos? Hobos? We're not homeless.
Even though they did look like they just rolled out of from like Coachella or Burning Man or something like that. But that's neither here nor there. Very cool stylistic choices for these two girls.
Yeah.
But he insists that I'm going to help you close your van door. And this is where you actually get the very first jump scare of this segment, at least. And it's earned.
Yeah.
It is well earned.
This is probably one of the, out of the 5 stories that they have, one of the slowest burns up until this point.
Yeah.
It's a lot that goes through up until this point. And so when he's trying to help them, like, close the door, it won't budge. So when he reaches in to kind of, like, you know, pull it towards him, on his way of leaving his hand out, once he realizes it doesn't close, a long, long clawed hand tries to grab him. He's like, who the hell else is in there?
He's like, what is in the van?
Who the hell else is in there? There's somebody else in there. They're like, nope, no, there isn't. No, there's somebody else in there. So he forces it open and he's searching through, trying to figure out what else is in there. That's where it takes its turn.
All hell breaks loose. So, you know, at this point, you're thinking, well, one, that was weird. And then the camera cuts to one of the other girls.
It actually cuts inside of the van, and one of the girls
it shows you there's nothing in there.
Well, no, I mean, like, so the camera is the point of view of inside the van while the guy's rummaging through, and you see one of the girls walk behind him, and she's just mumbling something while he's searching through, and you're like, oh, this already isn't good.
And so of course, first inclination, oh, this is some type of cult thing. They're about to murder this. They're about to murder this dude, especially in the next shot when old girl pulls out a pocket knife. Yeah, and was like, "Oh, poor guy."
He hears her murmuring louder. He's like, "What are you saying? Are you okay?"
And then at that point, the other chick cuts the back of his hand, and I was like, well, at least they didn't kill him. At least they didn't kill him, because we've already had watched somebody get their face blown off with a shotgun. We've watched
technicality in the first one. How many people were there?
Let's see. There was shotgun guy. There was poisoned Asian. There was throat slit boss.
Throat slit guy.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No,
the boss.
Slit balls and
and Suicide Boy.
Yeah.
Then there was Grandma who died by poison.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that leaves the other
unnumbered. Like they may not have necessarily died, but they're still.
That leaves the other 4 who are still alive. So by technicality, in the first part, you can assume 8 deaths.
Roundabout, yeah. So anyway, yeah, like you're expecting that they're gonna kill this dude, but they don't. They just cut his hand. But that's when you start really understanding what this girl is chanting, and she's saying something along the lines of, "The tether is with us," or "The evil is with us. The tether is here. The evil is not be free." Something along those lines, and that's when you realize that, wait a minute. They're not killing him, but something hinky is going on. But that's when Kaz. That's when Kaz noticed something interesting and something that I did not realize.
So, like, the part when he had asked him, "What are you guys' plans for Christmas?" and said this, they were referring to drinking. They had passed him the flask because he eventually just decided to take it. And when they passed him the flask, they could have done a shot of just the people, like how we are sitting right now, handing the flask, but they did a zoom in on the hand. And when you look at the girl's hand handing him, she has a tattoo on her wrist. And that tattoo is an actual Wiccan symbol. It's an actual Wiccan tattoo. So I was like, this is going to lead to witchcraft. Like, the moment I saw that tattoo, I was like, this is witchcraft. I don't know how witchcraft is going to play into this, but this is witchcraft.
See, and I didn't know that because, you know, me being Christian but doing research into not like the darker stuff because I am alternative. That was something I still didn't even know. And so, like I said, these directors know their horror. Yeah. Like, having worked for Blumhouse and Fangoria, and possibly Bloody Disgusting. That one still, I don't know that one for sure. But But having worked for these sites, they know horror.
They have their material.
They have their material, and they use it to their advantage. So at this point, you start seeing his hand globe where they cut him because the
other chick chanting grabs it and starts saying it louder.
Yep, and so you have the African American chick and the white chick. I can't remember their names right now, but either which way, they've both made contact with this guy. They both have literally his blood on their hands, but not in the sense of him being dead. But they have his literal blood on their hands, and they are what they are doing. You don't know for sure yet, but all you know is that they're trying to transfer something onto this guy.
So, like, in the middle of the transfer, one of the girls is like, "We're done, we're free," and she runs away. And as she's running away, you see this weird purple fog, and the other girl's like, "It's not done yet. We're only halfway there." And she's like, "How far am I away from the van?" And at that point, you're just like, "What's wrong with the van?
What's wrong with the van?
What's wrong with the van?" And as she's standing there, you see this tall, dark demon. I mean, and I call it the O mouth, and it's when the demons form the perfect O with their mouth, so you see all the teeth in it. I was like, oh god, to make it even better, it was all practical. None of that was CG.
Yes. So the monster in this was done in practical, either foam rubber latex or liquid latex, either which way, done practically, and then you get your technically third throat slit of the movie, because those long spindly fingers that we saw almost like brush against his hand. Yeah,
he uses that to kill the girl
and then start feasting on her. But at that point, that was as jarred as the African American chick is.
She took that opportunity because she knew the other guy was jarred.
Yep,
was like, oh my god.
She took that opportunity to finish the transition and step out of the circle, and that's when you realize, oh snap, oh wait a minute, this entity is the evil that they were talking about, because you see the tattoo transfer from her wrist to his wrist, and that's when she actually gets a big exposition dump, but
it's a deserved exposition.
Not only is it a deserved exposition. That's what I meant to say. Not only is it deserved, but it's also well done, because a lot of time in traditional films, exposition is the hardest thing to give and have it feel natural. This feels natural, and it feels beautifully natural, because she's explaining to him what the thing is,
its rules, and its transfer sequence.
And the thing is, she's got to tell him, because he was about to step out the circle. And she's like, wait a minute, if you step out of that circle, that thing will kill you, and then it'll kill your family, and then it'll keep killing, because we are the only ones who can keep this thing at bay. And only because we were born on Christmas Day.
Yep.
And that's when, his birthday came full circle. Like we said, that's part of the linchpins. And so then it's just like, but why? And she's like, who knows?
Who knows?
This is just how it is. But this evil, you gotta.
This is yours. This
evil is yours now.
You have to stay 20 feet within the monster, and you have to stay at least 10 paces from the van.
You have to, if you move more than 10 paces from the van,
you're dead.
My guy, nah. And by the way, the only way to free yourself from this curse is to find somebody else who was born on Christmas Day, and transfer this over to them.
Yep.
Good luck. It took us 2 years to find you. Excuse me? Excuse me? 2 years?
Yep.
Oh no. But at this point, we're getting to the end, and I think, you already have the creature horror.
Yeah.
But what's even more terrifying is what this chick does next, because this chick is genuinely a good person.
A nice person.
She's a genuine nice person, and she's like, well, I'll at least take your presents and drop them off at your house. And he essentially is like, well, bump off. You just gave me this evil. And then the most horrifying thing, she grabs this dude's phone.
Yeah, she managed to pop the lock.
Yeah, because she was already holding like the metal bar that you put down next to the window when you pop the lock. She had ready. That hidden in her jacket. She was ready. She was ready for this dude. But then she's like, well, I'll take your presents home for you. I'll leave them on the doorstep. And then instead of like actually waiting to get the address from this guy, she grabs his cell phone and is like, take me home.
Home address being GPS located.
And that's the point where I'm just like, and this is exactly why I don't keep my home address in my GPS. Because nobody, no.
You don't need to know where I don't need to lose my phone for some rando to find it, say, take me home while I'm at home searching for my phone to get a knock from some stranger who probably is out there with a machete with a scream mask on.
Thank you. Exactly. So, that is where that one wraps up. And, now this dude has the evil on him. And
so, like, I can tell you why I think that was people's favorite one and why I said that kind of disappoints me is because they actually got to physically see a monster. When you look at a lot of horror movies these days, people's biggest complaints is, where's the monster? I want to see the monster.
The Babadook.
Yeah, the Babadook is probably the best example of that.
Hereditary.
Yep, that too. And I was like, in a horror, you don't always need to see a monster. What's most terrifying is probably your most imagination.
Yep, the psychological horror. The psychological horror.
To me, that's more terrifying. But no, I feel like that's people's favorite ones out of almost all of these because you could tangibly see a real monster.
That, and I think that people thought that was probably the most fleshed out story.
Right.
And I feel like all of the stories are fleshed out in their own right.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of people lambaste this movie. They will put this movie through the ringer, and they will nitpick and complain about, this segment, I wasn't fulfilled by this, and I wasn't fulfilled by that, and this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, did we watch the same film?
Yeah.
Like, from a technical standpoint, this is sound. This is good. And then not only from a technical standpoint, like from a story standpoint, this is good.
Yeah.
But from there we get into the third. I forget. I have 4 finger paws and I always mess up. But anyway, we get into the third vignette, which is right before the intermission, which is Dash Away All. Now, I have mixed feelings about Dash Away All.
Yeah.
Only because it is a reimagining or retelling of at this point, I was becoming more and more invested in this film. We would not have the horror that we know and love today. What do you rate this film? And then I will give, since you're the guest, I'll let you go first. I had to give it